Welcome to Unconditional Wow Q&A. Um, this is a session just answering questions from YouTube, from emails, and submissions to emersonnonduality.com. And although nothing is an offer here, there's going to be an illumination that nothing is happening. Just really simple, simplicity being expressed. There seems to be an overwhelming sharing here of this passion um, about nothing. If you have any questions or if you want to submit a question, you can go to www.emersonnonduality.com and we'll see. Although there are really no questions, there are really no answers. There's actually not even non-duality. But let's give it a go. The first question is from from Angel. Emerson, I just feel stuck in two realities. There's such a resonance with this uncompromising message, just can't seem to grasp which there's no one to grasp or understand, but can't understand the no location, no separation if there's not two. How are the appearances of others? Angel. All right, so what's being suggested here is that since there's never been anyone, there are no two realities. There's not even one reality. And the reason that this is ungraspable and not understandable is because it what's being expressed is ineffable. It's not about an understanding or about knowing what's being expressed here, because the knower is not even there. It's an illusion. So the knower and the knowing are both illusory, and you can't simply grasp something that is ungraspable. And since there's no one, there's no location. Since there's no one, there's no separation. There's no subject or object. And there's not really a two. There's no others as well. Because the perception, the perceiver, the one that's perceiving this is an illusion. So everything that it perceives is also an illusion. So it could be 8.5 billion perception. No, sorry. 8.5 billion apparent people in this apparent planet. But the only one that's perceiving it is the illusion. So everything that it perceives is also illusory. So there are no appearances of others, or others are just appearances, and there's really no others, since there's never been any one. What's really, really obvious is that there's this apparent singular illusion. There's no two illusions. It's kind of like, in a dream, there's only one dream. No matter how many people in a dream, no one can break into your dream and say, "Hey, you know what? I dreamt about you last night," and the other person will say, "Yeah, I was there." That's impossible. So what's being expressed here is the impossibility of someone, of the existence of someone. In the dream, however, there's this perception, or there's this apparent illusion that there is a you or a me that's moving through time and space, that everything that it perceives is real. It's a dream of reality, a dream of separation, a dream of the illusion of time. So there's this others, there's seemingly this location, there's seemingly this subject and object, since what's being expressed here is an illumination that nothing is happening. So nothing is happening, period. Not to someone, not to anyone, not to others. Nothing is nothing. Second question from Angel. This is a long question, Angel. It's ironic. The lady that asked about synchronicities over the last several days, apparently I was doing some research about Yosemite Park. Apparently, this character, Angel, likes walking on trails and used to feel like she related a lot to the movie called Wild with Reese Witherspoon. Anyway, as I was doing research about Yosemite State Park, I started to see Yosemite t-shirts everywhere. In the pet stores, t-shirts for pets. Then I came across my neighbor who was talking about a road trip to Yosemite. LOL. Today, apparently, I was at my daughter's house visiting her, and when she came to the door, she had a Yosemite t-shirt on. Also, I collect and always have, apparently, since I was a child, Alice in Wonderland. Lately, and apparently, I am seeing Alice in Wonderland everywhere. I go in people's home, in stores, literally everywhere, but more so it to be Yosemite Park. Okay. All right, that's a long, long question, but let's just what's being suggested here is there's no one. So everything that it perceives, including synchronicities, is just another illusion. It's just another rabbit hole. It's like pseudoscience. It's like paranormal. It's a belief system, and seemingly meaningful connections between, subjective, objective, but they are completely meaningless, since the one that's trying to connect the dots is a meaningless illusion. I know that's hard to hear, especially when there's this investment, or there's this special, investment in what seems to be appearing. This character used to connect the dots with 1111. Oh, that's my call now, for my awakening, and of course it saw 1111 everywhere. It's completely meaningless. It's another trap in the illusion. It's another idea that keeps on a roller coaster of knowing, a roller coaster of knowing the unknown. Since there's no time and there's no one, apparently, everything that's synchronistic, that seems to be this like, oh wow, I was walking around like Yosemite Park or whatever, and it's showing off everything. It's just seemingly the attention is seen. Of course, it's going to see Yosemite because there is this belief that this has meaning and this has purpose. And since the apparent seeker is looking for meaning and purpose, it sees meaning and purpose in seeming synchronicities that are completely meaningless. It's investing again in the storyline that is really just almost like superstitious, something that is not really based on anything, because nothing is really based on anything. And it's trying to put a story into a better story, or a story that has meaning, that it's magical or something. And there's nothing wrong or right about that. But once it's seen that there's never been anyone here, everything that it sees is completely meaningless and purposeless. It could be a wow, like, oh wow, I it's 11:11 again, and I saw that the last time I looked at the watch, it was 11:11. It's completely meaningless because there is no one to be synchronistic with. There's no subject and object. There's no phenomena that, with these numbers are connecting the dots. So the answer to that is, just the simple answer to that is, nothing is happening. And there's this appearance that something is happening, and it feels completely real. And in this quest for reality, when it sees synchronistic activities or signs or messages or anything like that, it tries to capture it as something that can lead to somewhere. Nothing leads to nothing. What's being expressed here is just this complete whole nothing appearing as something, appearing as synchronicity, appearing as coincidences, appearing as deja vu, appearing as whatever it is that's appearing. Since the baseline or the bottom line is that there's never been anyone here. So everything that is pumped out is a story. So there's a story about synchronicity. but it's really just nothing. There's a question here from Sirius Star, or more like a comment. What is going on here? These non-duality meetings keep popping up in my feed and they all have a similar flavor with no apparent connection to a specific teacher or teaching. The other and for more important aspect is the missing transmission of self to self from here to here. Without this, the words are immediately co-opted by the listener. The realization of non-duality or consciousness awake to itself is 100% dependent on a shift from one story or relative identities to that which the story appears inside as consciousness awake to itself, informing people of the illusion aspect of the individual entity without a simultaneous providing a transmission of that which an individual appears inside of can lead to the I got it, in quotes, syndrome. It's like giving talks on avocados without ever producing the taste of the avocados. Thank you, Sirius Star. So what's being suggested here is there's no self. So there's no transmission. There's no consciousness. There's no avocados. There's no one awake. So there's no subject and object. What's being expressed here is this uncompromising non-duality that is not really communicating to someone. So this does not really have any purpose. It doesn't really have any meaning. It doesn't have an audience. Apparently, what seems to happen is that there is this understanding of what non-duality should be. In the story, when I was a teacher, my understanding was I came from a lineage and I was giving the transmission or this endless chain or never broken chain of teachings from an authority. So what's being expressed here does not have any authority, does not have any kind of history. This is just the immediacy. This speaking right now does not have any knowledge or any knowing or any intelligence even. This expression is simply expressing the immediacy of this, and it doesn't really need a transmission. There's no others, there's no lower or higher, there's no guru or student, there's no passing on to something. This is already boundless energy, and it does not need to be transmitted. The immediacy and the simplicity of this is just expressing that nothing is ever missing. So nothing is ever transmitted. What else? And when it's being said that it's dependent on a shift from one story, so a shift from someone's story is just another story. So in the story, if there seems to be a shift, and there seems to be a shift given to someone, or an expression of a shift for a story, is really irrelevant of what's being expressed here. Because everything is already all awakeness. It's all awake already. It's all free already. So instructing something that cannot really be instructed because it's abundantly, unconditionally free already is pointless. You can't tell freedom to be free because it's already free. It's unconditionally free. So any teaching about avocados, trying to any teachings about freedom limits it because it becomes an opinion about what freedom is or an idea of what freedom is. So what's being expressed here is the wow, there's just already completely free. And it doesn't need to be learned. It doesn't need to be transmitted. It doesn't need to be found because it was never gone. It's already completely free. And there's nothing that needs to be thought. There's no teaching. There's no lineages. There's no consciousness. There's no realization. Because what is being expressed here is already free as it is. Already. already. There's nothing needed because it's already free. And this answer is not even needed. Next question. The next question is from Sky. Sky goes, if someone is 40 years old and is steeped in a given religion and they contemplate to wake up, I don't think nothingness is the first lesson, even though I agree to the nothingness to some extent. So this communication actually is not for any audience, no 40-year-old, no religious, no one, because there's really no audience for this. And that's what's being expressed, that there's no audience, there's no listener to this. Because what's being expressed is nothing expressing to nothing, nothing communicating to nothing. And there's not even spirituality, there's not even religion. It's all really nothing. There's really no one choosing to contemplate to wake up or not. There's really no one choosing to listen to this communication or not. So simply what's being expressed here is just this obviousness that this is nothing appearing as everything. Let's even scrap that. It's not even nothing. It's this unknowable that cannot really be known. So how is that attractive to an audience? How is that attractive to a listener when what is being expressed is simply empty is fullness, fullness is empty, empty fullness. And it's a really hopeless communication because it's a poverty, it's a starvation of the seeking, trying to get to somewhere because there's nothing to go to and there's no one to get somewhere. So this communication, what seems to resonate is that there's just this resonance that there is nothing. Salon had this question. He goes, can you talk about paradox? And I, there's a parent character, just basically responded, semi, I responded, what paradox? And then he responded, Zalan responded with the paradox of this ship of Theseus or something, which is a philosophy. I'm not going to get into it, but what's being expressed is the answer was that what paradox when there's no one to have a paradox? Simply, there's no one to have any paradox. So any paradoxical stories or theories or philosophy are just really stories. I can name a few. There's the paradox of the Sleeping Beauty. There's the grandfather paradox. All of that are just real stories. Well, really stories, not real stories, sorry. Expressing that there's a subject and object, that there's time, that there's someone to happen it to. Since there's never been anyone for this to happen to, there's no such thing as paradox. Paradoxically, I'll stop. It's just really simple. Again, all of this knowing or all of this theory or all of this philosophizing is just this circular, never-ending loop of knowing. But it will never get to anywhere. Because all knowing will just lead to knowing. And what's being expressed is nothing to do about knowing. It's nothing to do about philosophy. It's nothing to do with understanding at all. Again, since there's no one, there's no paradox, there's no synchronicities, there's no deja vu. All of this is just storylines or narratives appearing in a story of illusion, illusory story, and it's not really happening to anyone. There's a question here from Tamo. Hi, Emerson. What about solar flash that spiritual, in quotes, community is talking about, that it will happen soon? Is that also illusion of the mind? Yeah. It's just another recycled idea. It's kind of like the rapture, the Armageddon, a whole bunch of stories that have appeared like that. And it's just a story. It's almost like a fear-based story of this is the time. This is the Great Awakening. It's almost like cultish in a way because there is this seemingly a group happening, a mass awakening, or and it's usually steeped in a lot of stories. Kind of like with the rapture, there's a lot of people that are waiting for that, waiting for the second coming, waiting for the great ascension, or we're going to get into a 5D reality, or where Christ consciousness is going to awaken. All of this storylines are just really pages in a book, which is really empty. It's really nothing. Since there's no masses, there's no individual, all of this narrative, all of this fantasy is just waiting for that end game. So it's looking for something that will happen in the future. I have to get ready now. I am going to do my fine tuning, my aligning, my purifying. It's the same as atoning for my sins. I'm confessing now. I'm going to drink that Kool-Aid. The space, is all that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong or right about stories, but they're just really stories, and it's just a never-ending loop, and it just keeps on getting recycled over and over again. It's going to have a different flavor in communities. They're going to call it the age of Aquarius, this and that, all of this. And as a seeker in this story, I really long for that. I long for the end game. I long for the judgment day. I long for the ending of this. So it's this secret desire to end things. But everything is already ended. Everything is already seen through, transparently seen through, that all the narratives are just the swirling painting on an empty canvas. It's really nothing. It's really nothing. It's no thing appearing as a story about redemption, salvation, second coming, ascension, rapture, Armageddon, apocalypse, the end of whatever, whatever kind of like age of yoga we are in now. All of that is just, it's just a narrative. Since there is no one and there's no time, this is already the end. But it never really began. This is already it. There's nothing needed. There's no solar flash that's going to happen. There's no ascension. There's no 5D, or I don't know how many different dimensions or all that kind of stuff. These are just fantastical stories, really just obstructing what is already complete, what is already whole, what is already, you can call it paradise, home, heaven. This is it. There's nothing missing here. And all of these fantastical ideas is also it. It's all right. It's all right. But they're just ideas. Because all that there is this, and there's nothing outside of this. So all of the stories that are coming in, all of these appearances of stories about this and that are just this and that, doesn't really have any meaning or purpose. Next questions. Next question. This one is from Vince. If somebody slams a hammer on your hand or says we are torturing you in 5 minutes, ouch, would you feel a very localized me or a sense of nothingness? So since there's no one here, there's no me, there's never been any me. So what's being expressed is that there is just this painting. There's no narrative of me, kind of like, why did this happen to me? Why did I deserve this? So whatever arises, it could be shock, it could be pain, it could be resistance, it could be whatever seems to appear, but it's not appearing for anyone. It's just seemingly happening, but not appearing for someone. So there's no narrator, or there's no history or any kind of Um, so here's a question from Vince. If somebody slams a hammer on your hand or says, "We are torturing you in 5 minutes," would you feel a very localized me or a sense of nothingness? Neither. There is no me and there is no sense of nothingness. So what seems to happen, or what seems to appear in this, well, it's just painting by itself, since there's no one behind it, no one um, having a story or narrative. Um, it's just ouch. It's pain. There's no filters to pain, but it's just this painting by itself. It could be a reaction of anger appearing, shock, or anything, or maybe because I'm a secret ninja, maybe they'll be just this. I'm just joking. Um, Everything is allowed, nothing is excluded. So whatever seems to appear in situations like this of torture or whatever, it's just what seems to appear. So there could be screaming and yelling, there could be resistance, but there's no one behind it. There's no storyteller behind it. There's no one that's claiming it. But ouch, ouch. Hazel asks, so people are created in our minds? So what's being suggested that everything is uncreated. So there are no people. If there's no people, there are no minds. Uncreated, nothing happening. No one. There's never been anyone. So in the apparent story, there seems to be a belief that there are other people, um, and there seems to be a belief that I am creating this, but that actually just reinstates or reasserts that there's someone that's creating this. So since there's no one creating this, everything is uncreating, everything is uncreated. Just this just this mystery. It's unknowable nothing. So since there's no time, there's no history to create. There's no beginning or end. There's no dissolution. So yeah, so nothing is created because there's no creator. And there's another question similar to that. Are there 8 billion perspectives on Earth right now? Or is that an illusion as well? If so, doesn't that point to solipsism, even if it's kind of belief? Yeah, solipsism is a belief. It's a belief that there is a self that's a center point in everything, and there's no others. But what's being expressed here is that there is no self, that there is no one, and it's not a belief since there's no one to believe in anything. Um, in the illusion, there's only one perspective, and that perspective seems to have a perspective of 8 billion people. But since there's no one that has a perspective, there are no 8 billion people as well. It's just this grand illusion, but for no one. No one. There's not even a one. It's zero. Not even zero because it's just unknowable. Again, it just goes back into that unknowable. And this next question is from Anne. You say that it appears in everything, chaos, etc. But rather, my take is that it appears as everything. It is everything. There aren't two, just one, just indivisible singularity. I'd love to hear what you think about that. Brilliant. Yeah, there is actually no division. So it's not in really in everything. It's just, it appears like it's in everything, but it's actually there. Everything is nothing. So it is everything. It is nothing. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yes, it's the directness and the immediacy of this, the intimacy. There is no this or that. There is no appearing as, it's just as is. So nothing is everything, everything is nothing. Seemingly in the dream, nothing is appearing as everything, or everything, it's in everything. But that's just another story. Because what's being expressed here is untold. It cannot be told because there's no storyteller. I think that's all the question for now, seemingly. If you have any questions, please go to www.emersonnonduality.com. There's this passion in apparently answering questions that are really nothing. These are really nothing. Nothing is an offer here. Nothing. Nothing was answered. But thank you. Thank you for nothing, and see you at the meetings. Bye.